Hi, this is King Diamond. You're listening to the Ratio Podcast. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the Ratio Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Ray, and man, it is so good to be back with everybody. How have you been? It's been since, January? You know, I guess some of you all were thinking we weren't coming back, but we were actually working on things to make sure that the podcast goes on for many, many, many years to come. So thank you for your patience. We have got a hell of a show coming back for you tonight with Mr. Tim Ripper Owens of the mighty KK's Priest. And, Tim also fronted Judas Priest. He's been singing on projects for years and years. I mean, this man has got a resume. So super cool dude, super fun to talk to. So we'll have that chat with Tim the Ripper Owens coming right up for you. And but first of all, one of the reasons we've been on hiatus is our live show, which you can find that on YouTube. There's, I believe we have 4 to 5 episodes up and ready and rocking. And we've been working on that and fine-tuning it with our good folks with our good friends and partners at Cine here in beautiful downtown Athens, Georgia. So, expect that. We're going to have that coming back in October. But from here on out, that's not going to affect the regular audio podcast. So we're going to have a lot of metal, a lot of cool cult movie folk on this year. And just people, people ask me, what is the Ratio Podcast at this point? I'm like, our heart is rooted in outsider art, so metal and all its offshoots, punk rock, but man, anything can be, within that definition, just somebody that's putting something out in the world, that's making a change, in a positive way, or at least getting you thinking. So I guess that's the best thing that we feature. I guess the best way to put it here is that we feature outsider artists. But, we are all about the metal, and I got so much metal coming up for you here at the beginning of the season and throughout. But just want to say hello to our partners, and that's my co-host Jack Slayton and our wonderful editor, Mr. Brent Duncan. He's also a badass musician in his own right. He gets these sounding right for your ears, so we appreciate him more than words can say. And we also got Mike Schulenberg still rolling with us here in the Ratio Podcast, and then just a countless host of others with the live shows. So go to the YouTube channel, the Ratio Podcast YouTube channel, if you want to see what we've been doing. We've been trying to get the reps in, and we'll get we'll be rolling out in October with a more fine-tuned beast. So, but it's so good to be back with y'all, and let's get to it, man, with Mr. Tim Ripper Owens. All right, everybody, we are back with the Ratio Podcast after our hiatus, and I can't think of a cooler guest to come back with than Mr. Tim Ripper Owens of the mighty KK's Priest, and he also fronted Judas Priest, Winter's Bane, Beyond Fear, and just countless other projects. We could be here all day with him. So, hello, Ripper. How are you, man?
I'm good, Johnny. How are you?
Good, good. Just great to be talking to you, man. And, I have been jamming out to these two new tracks that have been released off the upcoming The Sinner Rides Again, Reap the Whirlwind and One More Shot at Glory. And these are just unbelievable, just metal classics, man.
Thank you. Yeah. A little bit of KK's Priest metal. I think it's the perfect songs to release out there first off the record.
Right on. And for anybody that doesn't know, that album's coming out on September 29th. And I just can't get enough of these two songs. So I am so looking forward to the full length. But let's get right on with it and talk about, you obviously were in Judas Priest with KK. And what was your relationship like with him while you were in the band?
It was fantastic. As it was with all the guys in Judas Priest. We all got along great, and it was like family and friends. I felt, it was just a great time. And after I had left, I think Ken and I stayed in contact the most, especially probably the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Anytime I would come through England playing solo, usually I'd play about 2 hours away in Manchester, and he would always come to the show and hang out, and so we always stayed in contact and talked. But it's great to be back with him, because it's like I never left his side. It just feels so natural, and he's such an easygoing guy, so professional, yet he treats everybody. We're all always striving to treat everybody, the crew, the band. We're all like just one big unit, and
right.
But it's great. I laugh because he has so much energy, and he doesn't complain, and he has so much energy. I'm like, it's a complete opposite of me. I'm always tired, and I'm always complaining about stuff. So I'm like, I posted a picture on social media one day. We were at rehearsals, and the rehearsals and video shoots, they're long days, and because it's production rehearsals too, with lights and all. And anyways, I had my feet sticking in the air sitting on a railing, and Ken's in the background talking to the sound man. And I said, "There's Ken talking to sound man, asking, where's Ripper at, sleeping again?" And the irony was, I just woke up about 5 minutes before that, because I fell asleep sitting in that chair. So,
yeah.
But he's an amazing guy, and it's really great to be right by his side again.
Right. And, these songs, just hearing them, and you initially had Les Binks involved in the band as well. And if I have it correct, he had to bow out due to an injury.
Yeah, he had a hurt wrist. I don't know too much about it. And we just needed to get going on, and we really needed to put a great band together. So, I was fortunate enough to have a drummer that I play with called Sean Elg, and
right.
I said to Ken, I said, "Listen, now I don't usually recommend people, because it's a pretty big deal, and you got to be a pretty big pro, and it's to do something like this." And I recommended Sean, and man, oh man, Ken's just been over the moon. So it's Sean was the perfect fit.
Right on, man. I love it. Well, these songs, you have that excellent first album, Sermons of the Sinner. If anybody hadn't heard that, I highly recommend it. But I've seen where Ken has mentioned, and just for all our listeners out there, if we mention Ken, we're talking about KK. So I can just imagine 12-year-old me with my Screaming for Vengeance album and reading Ken in an interview and going, huh? But yes, our metal hero KK, he stated that these songs are more of a collaborative effort. Can you tell me a little bit about how this album came together?
Well, I think it is, and I think Ken wrote it, AJ helped, but Ken's the mastermind, and I think he really wants to prove points. He wants to write the lyrics and the melodies and stuff. But I think the difference this time is not only was he writing it for, he knew how to write for me, but he knew what the drummer could do, and Tony brings a lot of different elements on his bass playing. But I think he let everybody just gave their own stamp on this one. They gave their own styles, and The way I did it this time, though, is he gave me the melody ideas, but I did my vocals at home in Ohio at my studio at my house, and I had to talk him into it because Ken's old school, and he's like, no, you got to come here to the studio to do it. I'm like, Ken, listen, I record everything in my studio now. Find me the files, and I'll do everything here. And why I like it is I can get up in the morning, I go to the gym every morning, and then I come back and I can slowly work on the songs and go outside and have coffee and take my time, and I get way more character out of myself. Like I gave him 8,000 vocal tracks, and it's just, and you could tell on the record it's way more aggressive vocally than the first one. It still has the classic elements, but it's a lot more characters and variety in the vocals that I do.
Right.
But I think that's because I was sitting there by myself, just doing what I do, and then overdoing it sometimes. So I think this, even though he wrote the stuff, I think everybody gave it their own stamp even more this time, because we are a band. it's a band. It's not a project. It's not this. It's a band. And I think the songs, these songs, we were able to do that even more because there's so much going on with these songs. They're so good. This album is so good.
Oh yeah.
And I think, all the way down to the production everything was different on this record. So it's just so great.
Well, it's just so inspiring to hear songs. It's so late in his career, so like full of like energy and piss and vinegar. I just love it, man. And
you're right. Listen, I got to tell you, Johnny, the last guy I was talking to, or a couple guys ago, said it's funny because people get older in music and they get mellower a little bit, or they just change a little bit. And they said, man, Ken's full of fire, man. These things are just balls out heavy. He said it's crazy.
Oh yeah, I think back to like when we would get a tape back in the 80s or something. This is something that I was riding around listening to in my car, just jamming the other day. And I was right back there, man. I just felt, 16 again. But now, yeah. What's the plans for getting KK's Priest into the States for some shows?
Well, that's the next plan. Right now, we finally start playing, and if anybody go check it out on YouTube or whatever, and look at these shows. They've been festivals, so they're bigger, and we have pyro in the stage, and that's it's tough to go on the road because this production we take is expensive for us to take on the road. And, but that's what these shows were for, to showcase us, to say, look at this. And, I'm singing better than ever. Ken's playing better than ever. The band is just unbelievably good. We sound so tight, and it's such a professional show. And the goal is to tour the world, and obviously, especially one of the first places we want to hit is America. So TKO is our booking agent. So, everybody's getting a hold of him now and seeing if we can get the touring together and start getting out there and doing it.
Right on. Well, definitely you are singing better than ever, my friend. And that's one thing I wanted to go into. When you are, out on the road, your process, how do you keep your voice in such amazing shape and resist all the temptations that are floating around out there?
Yeah. I don't have a voice made of steel like someone like Ronnie Dio. He could sit backstage and have a botting pins or a Guinness, and he would talk to everybody and have fun. And, I have to not talk to anybody. I don't even show up. I don't like to even show up to the venue until right before I go on. And then when I'm done, I like them to get me back to the hotel. I take care I drink a lot of water. I don't talk a lot. And to be honest, I just hope and pray that I'm going to sing good.
Right.
Because my voice and voices, you don't know. You really could wake up, like Ken used to say. KK told me when I was a Priest, listen, guitar players have to shut their fingers in a car door to have a disastrous night. Singers can just wake up and not have a voice, so right. It's, but listen, I don't know how to explain it, but this last year and these last 6 KK shows, I've sang unbelievably good. I mean, my high notes have never been better. So I don't know how to explain it, because for the past 5 years before that, I wasn't singing as good. I was probably 65% at what I should be, and there was no reason why. But right now I'm doing good, so hopefully I can keep it up.
Right on, man. Yeah, it's got to be a grueling task to go up there and give these songs the justice, well, that's really exciting. And looking at you guys taking this around, I would follow back on one thing you said. There are full shows of KK's Priest on YouTube, and they're amazing. Like, good production. You can. It's the next best thing to be in there, I guess. But let's go back. I just want to talk about some of your past experiences. Now, this whole metal thing. When we grew up, it was almost impossible not to get into heavy metal, or hard rock at least. What was your introduction to the music and to the scene?
Man, I don't know. I mean, I always loved all kinds of music as a kid. I think my first record my brother and I got, was Kiss Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll Over?
Rock and Roll Over was the first record we got. And my dad listened to Aerosmith and Rolling Stones and Bachman Turner Overdrive. So I always had this good stuff listening to in the 70s. And then I remember I got REO Speedwagon's High Infidelity record. My brother got Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance. And then I just became a fanatic of metal, man, all the way from bands like Testament and Death Angel and obviously Metallica, Metal Church, Sabotage, and, obviously Priest and Dio and Maiden. But yeah, I just kind of became a fanatic then.
Well, being getting into that, you move into Winter's Bane. And I'm wondering now, I'm curious about, you guys go on, you do the Winter's Bane material, and then you would come out, take a break, and you guys would get changed, and then you come out and do like 2 hours of Priest. So How draining was that on you guys?
Well, it definitely was. I mean, I was younger then, and the Winter's Bane stuff is harder to sing than the Judas Priest stuff. It's kind of like now the KK's Priest stuff is harder to sing than the old Judas Priest songs. So It's kind of, every time I've done something, I've written it, and that is harder for me to sing. I don't know what the heck I'm thinking about, but it was draining, and it was funny that we did that because Priest wasn't together, and we only did that Judas Priest tribute band for about a year. When I made Judas Priest, I was actually in a Seattle tribute band, so nobody ever talks about that. But
it was called Seattle, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Now that's such a huge thing too during that time. What were some of the songs that I can see you guys focusing on, like Alice in Chains and things like that. What all were y'all singing in Seattle?
Well, my guitar player, Dan Johnson, who actually became KK's guitar tech, and now he's the main tech guy for the Black Keys, but he would do Kurt Cobain stuff. I would do obviously Soundgarden, because I could, sing the high notes and stuff. But yeah, I would do, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden. And we would open up with songs like Jesus Christ Pose from Soundgarden, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time with that,
Yeah. Mentioning Soundgarden, I mean, there for a minute, I was like, this is the new Zeppelin, this is the new Sabbath.
That's funny you just said that, because in their first two records, especially, I always used to say they're kind of like a Black Sabbath meets Led Zeppelin. That's what I used to call them.
Nice.
And they were more hard rock, heavy metal than the hard rock at the time was, because at the time when the ballads and the hair metal ballads were going on, and the only thing that made that genre of music different was the way they dressed. If you put leather on Alice in Chains or Soundgarden, they would have been loved by the heavy metal people.
Absolutely. I mean, the first time I saw Alice in Chains, I think it was at Thrash of the Titans, but I know I saw him open for Ozzy too around that time.
Yep. So, who was on Thrash of the Titans? Was that Megadeth and Testament?
Yes, it was Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer. Actually, Testament was not on it, and then Alice in Chains opened the bill, and they were getting, fuck yous screamed at them and everything. And about a song in, everybody shut the fuck up and, listened to this amazing band.
Yeah.
But okay, being such a metal disciple as you are, what was it like going to Europe for the first time after you joined Priest with
Well,
Judas Priest?
I went there once before because Winter's Bane recorded in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we signed to a German label, Massacre record labels, and I went to Germany. But yeah, it was crazy, going to England and going to Wales and auditioning, and then spending so much time in England. But I love England. It's one of my favorite places.
What were some of the adjustments you had over there? What were some of the first things that were like, oh, wow, this is culture shock in a way?
Well, England, the good thing was they spoke English. The food is very bland, but I love bland food, and they had the best Indian food, which I learned to love Indian food because they had it. But obviously, the weirdest part is them driving on the other side of the car, and the roads on the other way. So when you go to cross the street, luckily on the ground it usually says "look left" because it's the opposite of us here, and so it's really different. I go to Australia a lot now, and it's the same there too. Like they're the same way. There's only a few places that have the steering wheel on that side of the car. So my drummer and I was just talking when we were just in England. Now we were like, the weirdest part is sometimes is when you first get there, when somebody picks you up, you go to get into the car in the passenger seat, but it's actually the driver's seat. So it's like, oh shit, I'm on the other side of the car.
Right. So you guys are in Wales, and you're over there spending a lot of time, and I'm sure you're meeting all kinds of interesting people, man, and like living this dream. So once you guys get out touring and everything, do you remember like the first trip to L.A. With Priest? Long nights at the Rainbow, or were you just trying to be all business?
I was always all business. I did nothing. Now, first of all, when I auditioned for Priest in Wales, but the time I would spend in England with the band was in the Midlands, Birmingham area, that area. That's where I spent all the time. But listen, when I went, my first time in LA was a sold out show at the first time ever even in LA was a sold out show at the Universal Amphitheater with Motorhead opening. So it was pretty surreal. And you know what? Glenn and I did go to the Rainbow, and Ken, we did go to the Rainbow that night after the show, but we just walked in and had a beer and then left.
Yeah.
But I was always serious. I never did anything, that's music's my job. So, it was never a drug and alcohol infused time. I was always pretty serious.
Absolutely, man. And your career has been a testament to that. The proof is there. With all these great, albums and so many, like I keep going back to, check out the KK's Priest concert that's on YouTube, the festival show. Now what's the status with the Priest your era Priest albums? I know Demolition was on Spotify. I can find Jugulator on YouTube. Are there any plans to do a deluxe reissues of these?
Well, it would be nice. I mean, obviously Priest has erased my era, sadly enough,
Right.
So hopefully someday it'll be out. It'd be nice. I think there's still is fans that want it. I mean, I hear them talk about it all the time. I don't understand why you wouldn't put it out. I mean, I wouldn't make money from it coming back out, but they would. So, I mean, why not release especially Jugulator on vinyl? People would love to get that.
Yeah. I love them both, man. I still listen to them all the time. To me, they're as much a Priest album as, British Steel or Screaming for Vengeance. So,
yeah, I love them. And I'm a Judas Priest fan. And as a fan, not just because I'm the singer, but I love the records. I actually love Demolition even more myself. But that one was easier accessible to people, but Jugulator's just been totally gone. So anyways, hopefully they'll come out again.
Right on. Well, one thing I want to talk to you about, and I followed your career, and you've always kind of lived, all of our dreams. But one thing I really, really enjoyed when it took place, you took part in the Roadrunner United concert in December of 2005, and I just remember how everyone just freaking the hell out, man, when you did those Merciful Fate and King Diamond and Annihilator songs. What are some of your memories of that concert and that night?
I remember it was, well, first of all, I remember doing rehearsal the day, and I remember Jeff Waters, which I just saw Jeff. He came out to rehearsals out in England, and we were doing Alice in Hell, and when we got to there's a high note in the middle of the song. I said, "Okay, Jeff," I stopped. I said, "I'm going to hold this high note really long, and then you guys come back in." And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I just told Jeff Waters that I'm changing his song." But I remember doing those and the reaction of the people, and I had a great time, backstage and hanging out with all of them. And then after the show, Scott Ian and Corey Taylor and myself, we all went out to dinner, and it was just a really great time, and with a lot of great friends and musicians. It was a fun time.
Right. And now, have you ever talked to King Diamond? Has he ever contacted you over your renditions that night?
I've never spoke to King. I've never have. I look forward to one day meeting him. I'll go out of my way just to go meet him, because I used to sing that in my first cover band when I was younger in the late 80s. I remember singing Welcome Home and Owens and Abigail. I would sing those in the cover bands.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us today. We got one more little piece of business here, and it's the Ratio Podcast Lightning Round, stolen from my friend Count Zapula. But we're just going to run some quick questions at you here before we get out of here. And first off, favorite Iron Maiden album?
Number of the Beast.
Nice. Death metal or black metal?
Death metal.
What will happen first, a Browns Super Bowl win or a Cavaliers NBA championship?
Cavaliers NBA championship.
72 seasons are hardwired to self-destruct.
Yeah.
What's
that?
72 seasons. Metallica's 72 seasons are hardwired to self-destruct.
72 seasons.
Oh, yeah. It's so killer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
Well, Oppenheimer. I haven't seen either one of them, but I'm definitely going to pick that.
There you go. Festival catering or In-N-Out Burger?
Festival catering.
Right on. Kisses Asylum or Kisses Crazy Nights?
Neither.
All right, here's a Dio era Sabbath question. Mob Rules or Dehumanizer?
Oh, God. Mob Rules.
Right on. Progressive metal or progressive rock?
Progressive metal.
And the last one, this is probably the hardest one, Victim of Changes or Beyond the Realms of Death?
Beyond the Realms of Death.
Right on, man. That's my favorite, too. Oh, my God. Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on the Ratio Podcast. And I want to remind everybody the new KK's Priest album comes out on September 29th. How can our listeners get in touch with you, or what's the best place to digest all your information?
Well, they can always get me on, social media, Instagram. They can find my link tree and Tim Ripperone's link tree, and they get all of it. Or if they go to Twitter or Instagram and find Tim Ripperone's official, there's a link tree thing there that you can find all of my stuff. But Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, find me on there.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for all the killer fucking records, man, and the best of luck to you, man, in KK's Priest.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, man. How cool is the Ripper? I want to thank Mr. Tim Ripper Owens for coming on the Ratio Podcast and answering all our questions. Make sure you go out and get the new KK's Priest album, The Sinner Rides Again, when it comes out on September 29th. And you know what? That's our show for tonight. But we've got a new episode coming for you very, very soon. Tell all your friends. The Ratio Podcast is back and here to stay. And you can catch us on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. And you can also find us at www.ratiopodcast.com. So stay switched on, and we'll talk to you soon.